Welcome to Jazz Time. JazzTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. If you like this watch or would like to purchase it at the lowest price anywhere online, click on the link in the description below to buy it at JazzTime.com. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch Professional 42mm Moonshine on Gold Moonshine Gold, which in other words is yellow gold with a green dial and green bezel. Reference 310.60.42.50.10.001. I will tell you a little bit about the history of this, then tell you about where this watch stands in the lineup of other similar moon watches, then tell you about the case, bezel, dial, bracelet movement, finally trying on to give you my thoughts. So let's start with the history with Omega Moonwatch. The Moonwatch is, as you can imagine, as the name implies, is the first watch worn to the moon. That's correct. The first watch worn to the moon. And the reason why this watch is a manual wind movement, not an automatic movement, is that Omega or NASA and everybody else who thought, hey, would this mechanical watch actually work in space given there's a rotor on the back? And if there's no gravity, how would this rotor spin? And it may not be enough to wind the watch. So Omega developed this manual wind movement, which is the one that you see in here. And astronauts literally wore the Omega Moonwatch to the moon, and that's how it got its name. And it even helped at one point one of the Apollo missions return to Earth safely after their instruments had gone out of power, and the astronauts were forced to use their watches as a timing device to decide how long to turn on the afterburners in order to enter the Earth at the correct angle, and they used their watch for that, this mechanical watch. So it's got a lot of history. In fact, I would say it has one of the most storied histories of any watch around. It's an amazing story, actually. And so the Omega, that's where the Omega history is. Now, as you could imagine, Omega capitalized on this, and they made a lot of variations of the Speedmaster on leather bracelet, on steel, with different bezels, on special editions, the Snoopy, on gold, on steel and gold, on steel, and they variations after variations, tons of variations. But what you're looking at here is definitely the top variation. They don't make a lot of precious metal Omegas. This is one of them. In Omega calls it Moonshine, I call it yellow gold, and they just do a fantastic job of doing their most iconic watch. I would say their two most iconic watches are the Speedmaster and the Seamaster. So which one's more, I'm not sure, but this is definitely one of them. And they just, anyways, it's in gold as you see it here. It's the top of the food chain for Omega, and the top of the food chain for a lot of watches, really. All right, it's right up there competing with big names like Rolex. Okay, because Rolex's chronograph is around the same price. Okay, so that is the little bit about where this watch stands in the lineup. Now let's move on to the watch itself. Let's starting with the case. Okay, the case is 42 millimeters. It's a pretty good size, actually. It's not too big. 42 millimeters is a little bit bigger than Daytona. Daytona's like 40, and a lot of sports watches are 40, but this one's 42. It's not a bad size. Nice size, actually. And the thickness, not too thick either. 13.2. Not at all too thick. A Daytona's a 12, so it's a little bit bigger than a Daytona, but it's still excellent watch. And the lug to lug, that means the top to bottom, 12 to 6, from the place where the bracelet meets the case, is a 47.5 millimeters, which, to give you some reference, AP offshore is a little over 50 millimeters, and Richard Mille is around 50 millimeters, and so 47, it's still smaller than that. It's a, I would not call it a big watch. I would call it a small to medium, not small, I call it a medium to large watch. And I call it a Daytona medium-sized watch. Okay. By the way, the weight of this watch is actually 223 grams. That's actually like half a pound. So it's a pretty heavy watch, and it's not surprising because the watch is made of gold. All right, now that's a little bit about the case. Now let's talk about the, what part next? How about the bezel? Now the bezel here is a nice green bezel. Now you don't really see green bezels very often, but it's actually green ceramic bezel ring, and that allows the watch to not fade, or the bezel not to fade over time, and also not scratch. And it matches the green bezel or the green dial that you see here. Now you might actually think the bezel turns, but it doesn't turn. But anyways, it's a ceramic green bezel, which is quite nice. Okay, now let's move on to the dial here. The dial, also think they just did a fantastic job of making the dial look this beautiful deep green, not like a cheesy green, and they were able to make the bezel match, and as well as the dial, and in this very dark green. In fact, if you look at it in a darker light, it actually can even look black, because green is not the easiest color to match. It's actually a very difficult color to match when you're trying to match it with clothes, but they kept it so dark that it almost looks black, and if you look at it carefully, it's just a very beautiful deep green. All right, anyways, that's the dial. And let's move on to the bracelet here. Now the bracelet is, as you could expect, a beautifully done speed bracelet. It's your standard Speedmaster bracelet. It has these, let's see, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 pieces across that are alternating between satin finish and high polish. And also has a very nicely done bezel, and what can I say? It's a very nice bracelet. Okay, now let's move on to the movement here. Now the movement is quite interesting. This is an Omega 3861. It's a very famous movement. It's a manual wind. You know, guaranteed it's going to work. It's one of the most reliable movements ever made, and you know so because why would NASA take it on all of their Apollo missions if it weren't so great? It is great. It is a good working movement. There's not going to be any issue with it. You wind it, it works, and it can even work in outer space. So you can bet it's going to work wherever you're at. So, and it's also quite beautiful. It's I mean, actually, to be honest, I actually think this movement looks better than, for example, like the Daytona movement. When you have a manual wind, you see all the gears and everything. It really opens up the movement. When you have a closed case, or actually even on Daytona, you even have closed case back. You can't even see the movement. But when you have a rotor, you can't really see it, so it doesn't. There's much less moving parts. Anyways, the movement's really nice. So there you have it. Now, time to try this watch on my wrist. Now, I'm 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. I have a 7.5 inch wrist. And if you want an Omega at the very top level, this is it. And something much different than most people have, because not a lot of people get a gold green Omega. So it's something unique. It's something beautiful. It has tons of history behind it. Holds pretty good value. Now, this watch is retailing for low 40s, I think 42.6K on Omega's website, but we're selling it in the 30s at jazztime.com. So look, if you want to buy this watch, the lowest price anywhere online, and you want a great watch that has a lot of history, a beautifully executed, fantastic movement in a precious metal, and it's going to be a great conversation starter, buy this watch and go to jazztime.com.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to Model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model, and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.